In part three of this five-part series on third-party management, a risk-based approach sponsored by Diligent, I visit with Kairi Isse on implementation and maintenance of your third-party risk management program. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode in our five-part series with Diligent. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me Kairi Isse. She is the Managed Services Group Manager. Kairi, first of all, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Harry, I often tell people as important as the first several steps in the third-party risk management cycle are the step of after the contract is signed is in many ways the most important. That's where the rubber hits the road. It's execution and it is monitoring. So that's Tom Fox's theory, though. What is your opinion on whether or the importance of ongoing monitoring, and why is it so critical in the third-party risk management relationship?
You're pretty much on spot with that. I'm sure that everybody in this field, it doesn't come as a surprise that in this interconnected world, when all the international supply chains have become interconnected, the third-party risk really does continue to be one of the most significant compliance threats for modern companies, mainly because they expose your company to various risks. In your own company, you can directly influence the compliance program and the trainings and everything, while the third-party risks are really not directly in your control. And a data breach in one of your third parties or a bribery in another, it could really disrupt your business and damage your reputation. And in the worst case, you can end up with millions or billions in fines, right? So it's just really, really important to understand how much risk each of these third parties pose to your organization at any given time, not just when you are onboarding them. And third-party monitoring also helps to really preserve that stable vendor ecosystem. And when Diligent, we really look both for inside out monitoring and outside in monitoring. So inside out being due diligence questionnaires, documentation that the third party provides you, and outside in, which would be the screening of global database checks and adverse media and due diligence investigations. All of these help the client keep them aware of all the risks all the possible risks at any given time.
Kairi, have you seen or do you believe the Department of Justice has given us any guidance on this component of managing third parties and third-party risks?
No, definitely. I cannot really speak on the legal point of view, but what we see from our clients is that ever since the updated guidance on how to evaluate the design and implementation and the effectiveness of the compliance programs for third parties, we find that our clients are increasingly concerned on having the ongoing efficient monitoring or effective monitoring of the third parties. And not only during onboarding, which is the standard, everybody screens their third parties before they start working with them, but also throughout the entire life cycle or the life of the relationship with the third party. So we are assisting our clients increasingly more and more to have a well-designed compliance program that's also being applied earnestly, and that it's also working in practice, which are all the three core points that were added in the 2020 DOJ guidance update. So yeah, it's definitely it's important to screen the third parties because the clients want to ensure that they engage in this risk management, like I said, throughout the entire life cycle. But also to know that if any risks change, that the guide or what they have set up is going to be changed. Like maybe the risk level needs to change. So the key to this effective risk management is truly the follow-up, the ongoing follow-up, to ensure that all the controls are in place and if needed are changed.
So now having identified the problem, perhaps we can talk a little bit about the solution, specifically the Diligent solution. What does the diligence product and or services bring to the compliance professional who's tasked with managing the third party relationship?
Yes. So I think I think what we provide is not just third party managing and screening. We just provide all of the third party managing, screening, and monitoring and renewals and everything all under the same roof on the same platform. So everything from onboarding, intake forms, due diligence questionnaire screening, renewing, training, assigning risk levels, ordering investigations, and then renewing them, during the life cycle of the third party, all of that within one platform. So our clients do not have to go to separate vendors, and they don't have to get different parts done by different processes. So we are sort of partnering with our clients to offer this compliance made effective under one roof or one system. So we have an AI-driven ongoing monitoring search tool in place that includes all the big databases and sanctions watch lists, as well as adverse media, because ongoing adverse media screening could unearth things that may not pop up on sanctions lists. For example, a third party can show up as high risk from the media perspective, even when it's not on any sanctions or watch list, right? So, and our tool or the search tool is set up specifically for adverse media. It's not just a generic Google search. It has specific search terms and algorithms. And I think what's important to point out is that our products or our system is customizable. What each client needs to monitor depends on their own risk model and what industry they're in, what regulations they need to comply with. So our tools give them not only the ability to conduct ongoing monitoring and automate their screening process, it also gives them an ability to classify their third parties by risk. So this offers the functionality of monitoring the high risk third parties, for example, against some additional database or data sets like politically exposed parties or some other negative news or watch lists, or screen them more frequently than, let's say, the low risk third parties. But yeah, I also think it's important also to AI. Yes, is definitely the future, and machine learning is important. But we are also offering a human element to this. So the advantage for the client is, so basically the most amount of data is often not an advantage. Having the right kind of data is, right. So how I look at it is, we are searching for a needle in a haystack. And if you are screening very often, like every minute, and you're screening against all the possible lists that are out there that have nothing to do with your industry, like I said, or the regulatory things that you need, you are just adding hay to that pile, and it just becomes a lot of noise, and it's much harder to find that needle. So what we provide is the customizable way to focus that search and make that haystack smaller, cancel the noise. Also, we are providing a human element to it. So if the AI is running the searches and comes up with the possible matches, right? So our analysts then go and review and analyze and determine the watch list screen results, like if they are posing a regulatory check or regulatory risk, and they are making the trained compliance analysts are making sure that these are actually matches. Are they true matches, or are they false positives? And only the citations that are validated as true match will then be referred on to the client for further review. So we are canceling out the noise for you, and you don't have to search in this big haystack.
Those are some fabulous metaphors. Many, many, many years ago in elementary school, I was taught the term picture word, or what we now call an adjective. And of course, there were action
Yeah.
words, which are called verbs. And you said something that I thought was incredibly significant. And then you described it in a way that I thought was brilliant. And what you said was, it's not the most data, it's the right data. Because compliance
Exactly.
professionals tend to think, well, if I have the most databases available to me, I have the most comprehensive system. But, and then this is your metaphor, you're just piling more hay on
Mm-hmm.
and you're creating more noise. I learned the term white noise in college, and I love that term. And you
Mm-hmm.
talked about, well, you've just created more noise for yourself. So it's really a more sophisticated and nuanced approach where you are actually trying to get the right data for your organization, who you do business
Exactly.
is, where you do business, how you do business, what you sell, all of those
Mm-hmm.
factors, and then search those components in a more targeted and focused way, and that hopefully you'll get a better answer out of it. Um, so you keep saying that because nobody else is saying it quite like that. That's a great way to phrase it.
There is another thing to that is that if you have more data, you're also more liable, right? So if you have a huge amount of data and somewhere in that data there is that needle, but you haven't found it because the haystack is big, you are still liable for it because you had it. So there's just a lot of um, things to think about. Yeah, you're right. It's definitely important to have the right kind of data.
Let me ask you about the either the audit trail, the documentation, or whatever is created that if a regulator or someone else comes knocking and wants to see that the company has maintained this ongoing monitoring, that can be demonstrated. Is that something that's a feature of the diligent tool as well, the audit trail?
Yes. Yes, everything, and that is definitely it. The third-party management system that we have, the third-party risk manager, is everything is audited in there. There's audits for the third-party profiles. There are audits for each of the cases. Everybody who clicks on anything that gets uploaded, it's all recorded. So there's definitely an auditable trail for every action. It's also, like I said, customizable. So there's all the forms, everything can be customized for your purpose. And we also have client projects. So I'm managing three segments of the managed services, and one of it is the analyzing or screening and the analyzing of the data, and one part of it is the outsourced client. We outsource basically client services or client projects for third-party management. So if you are, and we are actually, our clients are both big companies and small companies, so it doesn't really matter. It just might be that you don't have time or you don't have the budget for having so many people who are doing this due diligence of the third parties. We can um, outsource the whole onboarding, sending out the business intake forms, sending out the due diligence questionnaires, tracking them, reviewing them based on your criteria, then also sending or based on the risk level, which the client also can, customize which risks are what they want to do with which risk level. We can also order due diligence reports for that. So there are just so many ways that our product can really help make an effective or help make your compliance program more effective.
Kyrie, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode, but I hope our listeners will join us for our next episode where I visit with Adam Bailey, where we talk about reporting literally from the board level down into the granular level in the compliance function and back up again. But before we leave, I was wondering if our listeners wanted any more information on any of the topics we've touched on in this podcast. What would be the best place for them to go?
Definitely go check out diligent.com. That's our company's website, and we hope to hear from you.
Kyrie, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with me, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
Thank you very much.
This is Tom Fox again. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you will join us tomorrow where we visit with Adam Bailey on reporting. This special 5-part series has been sponsored by Diligent and is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network.